Simply put, I believe we should not be moving forward on this nomination, not until the election has ended and the next president has taken office.
Yes, Judge, I think this hearing is a sham. I think it shows real messed up priorities from the Republican Party.
The big secretive influences behind this unseemly rush see this nominee as a judicial torpedo they are firing at the ACA.
Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee staying on message in yesterday's hearing for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett, focusing much of their opening statements on the future of the Affordable Care Act. Let's bring in Democratic member of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent and host of Way Too Early. Kasie Hunt joins us from Capitol Hill as well. Great to have you. Senator Blumenthal, I'll start with you. How do you think yesterday went? How did you feel about the nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett after listening to her opening statements, answering questions? I know you're concerned about the Affordable Care Act, but as a nominee, how does she fare?
I'm deeply concerned about the Affordable Care Act. And what we did yesterday, I feel very good about it, is we brought real people into the room, showing the real harm that this nominee will do to people like Connor Curran, a 10-year-old boy in Ridgefield, Connecticut, who suffers from an incurable disease and is alive today because he has health care access afforded by the ACA. So people with pre-existing conditions who would lose their coverage are in that room, but also on the issues of reproductive freedoms and gun violence prevention. This nominee has extreme and radical views. She described her views on the Second Amendment as radical, and her reproductive freedom stances will be very much at issue today. So I think so far she's talked about her personal qualities, her background, but she has answered none of the tough questions that we're going to have for her, and we're going to be taking our case to the American people.
Kasie Hunt, I know you've been covering this. Tell us about the dynamics inside the room. There were some Republican senators, Mike Lee, who've been diagnosed as COVID positive, not wearing a mask. What was it like in there? Tell us some of your reporting, and then you can take it to the Senator, Kasie.
Sure. Well, Amika, we learned this morning, actually, that Senator Thom Tillis is also going to be here in person today. He appeared virtually yesterday. He is bringing, Mike Lee brought yesterday the equivalent of a doctor's note from the Capitol physician saying, it's fine, I'm not contagious, I'm cleared to appear. It wasn't clear whether he had actually tested negative for coronavirus. And I think you guys showed Mark Meadows as well refusing to talk to reporters without a mask. So that's definitely been some of the drama that's played out here. And we'll see if Tillis decides to keep his mask on during questioning. Lee would not respond to questions from reporters when they tried to ask him about why he didn't keep his mask on during the questioning yesterday. Senator, I want to ask you about the politics of all of this, because clearly you all are very unified. We are 21 days away from, I suppose it's best described as the last day of voting. We obviously know people across the country are voting. What do you think is the dynamic at play in terms of the money that's coming in for Democratic Senate candidates? I mean, the numbers have just been astonishing. I know that there are some Republicans like Lindsey Graham counting on this helping them to keep their seats here in the final days of the race. But there's also a sense among Democrats that this may be driving that financial rush. At the end of the day, do you think having this hearing right before people make decisions about who to vote for is helping Democrats at the polls, or does it give Republicans an advantage?
Plainly, as you know, Kasie, the Republicans have the votes on this committee. They can prevail by raw power, but they don't have the American people on their side. They don't have history on their side. They are losing because the American people want the next president and the next Senate to choose the next justice. And the American people want the Affordable Care. They want reproductive freedoms and sensible common sense gun violence prevention. But there is an agenda here, and it is a pretty ugly one. The President of the United States decided in the days after Justice Ginsburg's death, he wanted to put another justice on the Supreme Court so she could decide this election. He made it absolutely clear. He articulated it. And this justice must commit to recuse herself. Otherwise, she's going to destroy the legitimacy of the court and her own credibility. That's why I demanded that she, in fact, take herself out of any decision involving the election, should it reach the Supreme Court, as Bush v. Gore did. But I think the majority of the American people want the votes to decide it, not the Supreme Court. And this whole proceeding is not normal. It really is a sham when you think about it. Americans are voting right now, and the president is trying to, in effect, have the Supreme Court decide the election, not the American voters.
Senator Blumenthal, it's Willie Geist. Good to have you with us this morning. So you say the process is a sham. We heard Senator Klobuchar say the same thing yesterday. Yes, it may be hypocritical. Yes, it may look untoward. But do you agree, as Republicans argue correctly, I think, that the president has the right, in fact, perhaps the constitutional duty to fill that seat as he is the sitting president?
He certainly has no constitutional duty to fill it. Abraham Lincoln, in very similar circumstances, decided that he would wait. And in fact, he was behind in the polls and was losing the election. Maybe not behind in the polls, but he thought he would lose the election. He waited. That's the right thing to do. And in this case, the right thing to do is actually the better politics, because it's what the majority of the American people want. Only the fact that Donald Trump thinks he can have another Bush v. Gore is the reason that he is proceeding so hastily, and that he can shift the legal center of the court vastly rightward, because this justice is radical in her views. That's the word she used to describe her own views on the Second Amendment. And I think there is a fundamental issue here. The Republicans have the raw power, but it isn't required by the Constitution that the seat be filled. And in fact, it erodes and destroys the legitimacy of the court. I have argued 4 cases in the Supreme Court. I was a Supreme Court law clerk. I revere it as an institution. Its legitimacy is the source of its authority, and the erosion of that legitimacy does lasting damage.
Senator Richard Blumenthal, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.